Hello everyone. This is my first impressions of SteamOS as done on the Legion Go S. So I just picked this one up from Best Buy yesterday. It's the Z1 Extreme with the 32 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage version. It was on Best Buy for sale for $649.99 plus tax, so it was about $700. It was about $250 off, and it's substantially cheaper than, or it's pricier than a Steam Deck, but it's also more performant. So I guess I'll start off by going over the specs in a little bit more detail. So this one has this AMD Z1 Extreme, 8 cores, 16 threads, 32 gigs of RAM, a terabyte of SSD storage. It does have 2 Type-C ports at the top. I just have to make sure if they're USB 4. Headphone jack, volume down, volume up, and obviously your power button. There is no fingerprint scanner on this one, like the Asus one or the Legion Go 2. Yeah. You have a standard D-pad. It's soft presses. The buttons are not loud. And then I'm gonna shut this, put it to sleep just in case. The buttons are pretty quiet. Like, I'll bring it up. They're very nice and quiet and clicky. You have your thumbsticks. Now these are not the original thumbsticks. Oh my god, I can't say it. Thumbsticks that come with it. These are caps that I put on it. These are, you can see, from Skull Candy. It has the Steam button, and then it has the Steam menu button, which is this one. You have your menu and your other. The layout is pretty similar to an Xbox controller. Like, it has this button in the same location as this button. So this one would be that guy, and then this one would be that guy. So it's pretty much similar to a regular standard Xbox controller. The other thing it has is it has this little trackpad thing. I wish it was a little bit bigger. And then on the back, we have 2 of these back buttons, and you have triggers, which have these little caps, so you can go fully, or you can make them short, and you have the nice clicky shoulder buttons. So buttons wise, that's about it. And then lastly, there's a micro SD over there. I don't know what speeds it supports, but if it's anything like the first one, it's probably slow. Why did I buy this? Well, I had this before. Oh, it doesn't even fit in. Let me move this one aside. So this is the original Legion Go. It has a cover on it. Essentially it's pretty much the same. This one's also the Z1 Extreme, but the downside with this one is this one only has 16 gigs of RAM. And it runs Windows. I'll go more about it in why I chose to get the Legion Go S with SteamOS. But yeah, this was the original one I had. Basically the same thing. This one, the controller detaches and it has a bigger trackpad. So back to this one, why I purchased. So SteamOS is it's mainly why I purchased. So you saw me, I had put it to sleep and it instantly wakes up. Now I'm just gonna turn this overlay off so it's easier. But it's very easy to use. It's very controller friendly. There's no fuss about it. It just kind of works. Now I do have a problem. So if I pull up, well, actually I'll go into problems in a little bit. But yeah, it just works. As long as the game is Steam compatible, SteamOS compatible, which Steam does a very good job. So if I go to the store, and we can go to, hardware, categories, great on deck. So all these games work really good on Steam Deck. Now in a later video, I will go over the performance differences between the two. Yes, one has double the RAM than the current one in the video, but I'll show you exactly why. This is the better like gaming handheld, not a multi-utility handheld to get. I also have the same games installed on both of them, so I'll do a little experiment to show how it performs on one versus the other, and include the fact that one does have more RAM. But yeah, and that game's gonna be Last of Us. SteamOS, it's great, as I've said already in the video. I'm seem like I'm ranting. It's buttery smooth. The display has VRR, so variable refresh rate. So you can play at 30 frames per second, even with dips below it. It's still smooth. It is a 1920 by, I'll put it on the screen, by 120 hertz screen. It's rated at 500 nits, and it's pretty color accurate. The colors are vibrant. It's relatively quiet for the game profiles that I've played in. I can do a detailed video if it needs be, but yeah, I play around the 15 to 20 watt TDP most of the time. It's very quiet. It's barely audible over the speakers, and in this case the speakers are front facing. So you have the speakers facing towards you, so it's very nice. The grip, like, it's really nice to hold in your hands. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. So the grip is very nice to hold onto compared to my old one. It is heavy, but it's not as heavy as a Legion Go or something, but it's also not as light as like an Asus Ally X or something in that category. The construction is built really well, like it doesn't squeak or anything. Yeah, so those are some of the initial pros that I have, and if the game is like a SteamOS certified game, it just kind of works flawless. And now going over the cons. So, as it was a pro, SteamOS is also a con. Now, I'll tell you why. I have an extensive game library in Epic Games, and I do play a lot of COD games. Between the Microsoft Xbox Live Service and the Battle.net, none of those games work because the anti-cheats don't work. There's a game that I heavily play called Delta Force. It also doesn't work. However, it did used to work. So I guess the last update must have broken support for SteamOS. But any game that uses kernel level anti-cheats, like Apex Legends, Fortnite, Call of Duty, Battlefield, they just don't work. I don't know why they don't work, but it's to be seen why it doesn't work. And another minor inconvenience is if you have games outside of SteamOS, you can play them. They're just a little difficult off the back. It's not as simple as a SteamOS. I'll show you what I mean. So I have a app called, if it zooms in and shows you, Heroic Game Launcher. So if I launch this is where my Epic games and my GOG games exist. So you can see my entire library for Epic games. So I'll just pick a game to show. So this Guardians of the Galaxy game, right? It was from Epic Games. I had to go around, download this, sign in, and it opens a different app. And then this app will do everything for you, like the Wine emulation, the Proton emulation is handled by the SteamOS side. So if I play this, I'll launch it, and it'll just work, even though it's being like emulated from Windows to Linux. Here's another inconvenience. For games that are like not outside, it's not always the easiest. You have to kind of use this snubby trackpad to get the game to work. So the game's loading. In the meantime, I'm just gonna show the overlay fully so we can kind of see. And right now it's in low power. I'll go to custom, and basically my game settings are set as, so in VRR is enabled, half rate shading is enabled, TDP, and my TDP is at 15. Scaling factor sharp, sharpness about that 3. It's what I played this game at. And we'll do the equivalent comparison on the old one once I download the game on there. So we're in. So see, I'm holding this basically very close to 30 frames per second. You do have occasional dips down, which can be negated just fine if I drop the resolution a little bit or I enable the upscaler a little more aggressive. So I'll show my game settings on here in the meantime. So I am playing this at level of detail is medium, shadow quality low, texture quality high. Again, this is a 32 gig model, so I have given it 16 gigs just dedicated for VRAM in the BIOS, and then the other 16 is for the OS. Reflections off, ray traced reflections off. Basically, it's all low with the exception of textures cranked to high because I can. And then display-wise, it's at 1920 by 1080. For some reason, this game won't do 1920 by 1200, which is the resolution of this screen. I also have FSR set to balanced. It's FSR 1, but kind of looks fine. So, and here's technically this is a Pro. I'll show you if I put this device to sleep. Okay, so I put it to sleep. It's off. Like, I'll bring it up close. You can hear that there's no fan noise. Actually, the fan is turned off all the way. There you can kind of see it. You can see the fins of the fan. So the fan is fully turned off. And it went to sleep pretty quick. Now I'll turn it back on. So you see it's flashing, which means it's in sleep mode. That took about 5 seconds, and we're back in directly into the game. There's no weird, like, fidgeting of windows opening in and out. We're back in the game. We have the same performance we did right off the bat. So this is one of the biggest pros that brought me towards SteamOS, and it's right now sitting in a con, but there you go. The screen looks vivid. It's smooth. Now people will say 30 frames per second is not playable or it's not smooth, but I find it pretty okay just because the controller input lag is minimized. I'm guessing because it's a wired controller compared to like if you were to play it 30 frames per second on a Bluetooth controller because you have input latency being added. But yeah, you saw how smooth and silk that was. But that was one of the cons. And then another con, so if I go to my library, I have a browser installed. There we go. I got my browser and everything. Now to install more apps, you do have to finick a little bit. So if I go back, I'm gonna close. Switching when okay, so it's open. I would have to switch to desktop, and when I go to the desktop, this is where you can like install apps and everything. Still loading. There you go. So this is kind of where you would install all the apps and stuff you want. So there's a little store launcher that they actually give you, Discover, and then you can install your apps that you want from here. It's not as easy as Windows where you can just go to the Windows Store, download Netflix, Amazon. Like you can get like, you can see that there's VLC, there's Spotify, GNU Image, and like a lot of other apps, but it was not designed for it per se. It's not like Windows. So though that concludes the cons of this, like other than that, I don't see any cons. On to the next section. So performance and battery life. Performance is about what you would expect from a Z1 Extreme. So if you search around like whatever game on YouTube next to Z1 Extreme or whatever game next to Asus ROG Ally X, that's about the same performance you'll be getting. Slightly bit better depending on the game because of SteamOS. but more so about the same. Z2 Extreme is out, which the Xbox ROG Ally X launched with, and the Legion Go 2 also has that chipset. From initial videos done by ETA Prime and the Fox, I think, it points to it's about 10 to 15% better, but majority of it comes down to the lower power ratings, where you see the substantial gains. Is that an issue for me? Honestly, the gains, I typically clip it to 30 frames per second anyway. It'd be a little better, per se, but this was $650, and that was kind of a steal. Apart from that, performance is pretty in line with everything else. I can do a detailed video of it, but I only have 2 devices, so I have the Windows Legion Go, and then I have the SteamOS Legion Go S. Lastly, battery life. So this one has a 55 watt-hour battery. I was playing the Guardians of the Galaxy game. Let's actually go back to it. So playing Guardians of the Galaxy, it was showing me about 20 to 23 watts of battery drain while playing. And with a 55 watt-hour battery, you're probably looking at 2 hours, a little over 2.5 max of actual gameplay. Now obviously this is going to vary from game to game, but if you crank, this was at 15 watt TDP2, so if you do crank it higher, you're probably expecting like 2 hours or a little less. If you want the really good ones, you kind of have to go up to the Ally X with the 80 watt-hour battery, but keep in mind it's also a smaller device, smaller screen, so less parasitic power draw, I guess. But that's my battery. Yeah, so that's what the battery is roughly. And then in conclusion, yeah, I was actually on the edge whether I would want to keep this or not, just because some of my Windows games didn't run, but the SteamOS experience is so much better. I haven't actually encountered any bugs or anything that people initially that review this device did. But yeah, this is my initial impressions of SteamOS on the Legion Go S. Thank you for watching.